Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Wildy, Simmonds and Hill Publishing. These are important books from Wildy because they aim very much, they're tailored specifically to the practitioner and requirements that we have. And in this case, I think it's very relevant for people who are unrepresented, of which there are quite a large number in the area of expertise we're talking about here, which is family law. This is called The Single Family Court, a Practitioner's Handbook. It's been written by two people, Gillian, Geddes and Richard Budworth, now in a second edition, and as I've indicated, I'm very pleased to be able to review this book because these books are really of great value to us as practitioners. And of course, quite often today we are facing opponents who are unrepresented. They're litigants in person, and therefore the amount of time in order to explain what is happening, it does take up a great deal of extra planning. Now, Elizabeth and I looked at this book, and Elizabeth was the lead writer. We've given a title for our review, the following: Finding Your Way Around the Family Court, a handy handbook for practitioners and litigants in person. Let's look at the book first of all. It's a blue cover, paperback, there we go. There's the spine, and then there's the back. You probably can't make much out on the back because of the inverted colours and so forth, and it's very, very small print, but there we are. Now, the book runs to something approaching 560 pages. The index at the back is by page numbering, not paragraph numbering, page numbering. So you should be able to find things reasonably quickly. It's not a big index either. There it is. References are to page numbers, okay, so you can see where we are there. Now, right at the back, we've got the back of the work itself, and you can see selected family procedure rules and practice directions right at the back. If we go to the front of the book, you should have everything that you really need, not just from the family court practice, the red book, but this book itself should assist you immensely. There's the title page there, and then there's the actual detail. Then there's a dedication, which I'll leave you to read. And I think that's quite important because the foreword to the second edition by James Munby is in particular apposite, and of course he's been very supportive of this work. Of course he did a foreword to the first edition as well, which is more detailed, but it's very useful to have the top judge in the family division supporting this type of publication. There's a preface, again quite short, but it does actually assist, and acknowledgements about what's in the book itself. The content section. Now, this is where we start getting complicated quite quickly because we have our own little language and abbreviations, but it does help you. It starts off essential daily guidance for proceedings concerning children, which is actually a lot of the work I do, child arrangement orders and so forth. You can go on financial remedies, and you can run all the way through. You should be able to find what you're looking for pretty quickly. There are, let's have a look, there are a total of 7 different chapters. The last chapter is extract, so it's really more of an appendix or a series of appendices for the last chapter. But at least it gives you a great deal covering a range of practice directions and the relevant family procedure rules, because there's an awful lot of stuff in the red book here which is not particularly relevant or wouldn't be particularly relevant to what you're looking for. So this book should be of great help to you. Then this is the main beginning of the book, chapter 1. You can see how it's structured. This is looking at the daily guidance for proceedings concerning children. You can see again that there is footnoting, and you've got subheads and so forth all the way through. And running through again, you can see there are there is paragraph numbering as well to assist in finding things. And as I say, it runs to 500 odd pages. I'm very pleased with this book. As I've said before, it's not an expensive book, and I think it bridges a gap between the red book here, which is really quite complex, but something we need as practitioners to use because of the requirements from the practice directions and the family procedure rules. So what do we say about the book itself? This: handy, helpful, reliable and authoritative. This new second edition of the Single Family Court offers these attributes and more. And writing in the foreword, both in this and the previous edition of 2016, the president of the family division, Sir James Munby, refers engagingly to the busy practitioner at the coalface to whom this book is primarily aimed. And I think that's a very important point to bear in mind because of cuts in legal aid. That has had, certainly for me and many other people involved in the family practice area, it's had a very substantial effect on the way we conduct the proceedings. Now, At the Coalface indeed is further characterised by Munby as the almost ceaseless production of new materials and the aptly named data avalanche which confronts the family practitioner, hence the urgent need for this handbook. And as I've indicated, one of the problems we do have is a tremendous amount of additional information, and it's not just in family law, it covers a whole wide range of areas, and we are very lucky today to have the internet, which gives us a lot of additional free assistance. And this book, of course, I think goes along much farther along the way for litigants who've got a really big problem and very little money and will need to try to understand how the system actually works so that they do not fall foul of regulations. There have been problems I've had and many other people have had where if you don't recognise what the actual rules are and the guidance notes and all the other things that go with it, you can actually come unstuck quite quickly. Now, in undertaking the challenge of writing this book, the two authors, Gillian, Geddes and Richard Budworth, have aimed to create a distillation of this data avalanche, that's what Munby's called it, to assist both practitioners and ideally litigants in person, that's unrepresented parties. It's published recently by Wildy, Simmonds and Hill, and this book, say the authors, is for the hard-pressed family lawyer who needs to get her hands on the relevant materials at the last minute, particularly when caught unexpectedly at court. Haven't we all? It does happen, I'm afraid. You can prepare a great deal. You can use the Red Book. You can use the short version of the Red Book with the very quick reference, easy reference material and so forth. But I think this particular book, The Single Family Court, is ideal to merge the two very quickly. Obviously, you may need to refer to the main practitioner work, but I think this actually covers a lot of what you will need. Now, at family law, in the that particular jurisdiction, as the proverbial coal face itself is, or sort of can be, full of last-minute surprise developments. I've certainly had it where something happens right at the end, completely changes what is going to happen with the case. And having this handbook to hand at court or with the clients is reassuringly useful. And in matters concerning children, say the authors, stressing the point, there are no hearings which can be guaranteed to be straightforward. And I think that is a very important point to bear in mind, because quite often I will get a case where it's very simple, there's no great one, and it is not very simple. There's a lot more to it than one would initially think. So don't fall into that trap. Now, and speaking of last minute, this is definitely a legal text that's readable, accessible, and hooray, easy to use. There's an extensive index and an almost minutely detailed table of contents, so no problem looking things up. You should be able to find what you're looking for pretty quickly. Another example of ease of use is the chapter on proceedings concerning children, which I deal a lot with, on which salient points are arranged alphabetically, which I think will again help you. It starts with alcohol and appeals and then runs all the way through to vulnerable witnesses, wardship and welfare checklists. So you get a very good idea. By looking quickly at what you think your problem is, you should be able to find what you're looking for quickly. And as the authors rightly point out, the advent of the single family court and the plethora of practice directions, guidance and circulars, and in many instances the establishment of new courts has come as something of a shock to many practitioners, and certainly to those who must confront these challenges with little or no legal training, hence the pressing need for this handbook. Now, it's written by experienced practitioners in the field, and the book, with its judicious selectivity, if I can put it that way, and plain English approach, makes an important contribution to the literature of family law. And I think it's important to note that it's the first comprehensive handbook since the recent overhaul of the family justice system, and as such should be considered, in our view, as an essential purchase for the Family Practitioners Professional Library. Now, the publication date is cited as at 2017, and I'm recording this at the beginning of 2018. The law itself obviously is very new in terms of the up-to-date information. Munby's Foreword is dated the 16th of September 2017, so it's been available really from the autumn of 2017 onwards. But it's a very good book. You can get it at Wildy's, of course, and I would advise many people who are facing the single family court that this is the book that you need. And just to give you an example, we're just going through something which is really quite important called precedents. There are the precedents which are set out, and that will give you some idea of what you've got to actually include in any drafting that may happen. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have barristers or solicitors assisting, that will take a bit of the heat off. But quite often in some of the courts there is very limited availability of professional advice, and of course there are guidance notes and requirements that must be met concerning precedents. So this book, I think, again, for the person going to court from now on, they would need to have some idea of what sort of questions are going to be asked. We can cover that obviously if we're instructed, but when you're actually representing yourself, this sort of book will help. I'd like to thank Wildy, Simmonds and Hill very much indeed for this series of books, as with the other books they've produced, which make our lives a great deal easier as practitioners. A big thank you to all who have been concerned in the publication of this new edition. Thank you. Bye-bye.